How we doing, everybody? This is AJ Torres, Cohen Strikes, and let me tell you something. It is a good thing that the Mets have an off day today. Number one, it's because of the weather here, because I actually work in the state of New York and live in Connecticut. There is flash flood warnings, and there was no way they could have played that game today. It was just not a bad. It was just not a good idea by any means. We are getting some of the effects from Ida as we speak. But let me tell you something. The last couple of days, it's been an absolute mess for the New York Mets. So, to begin, I just want to say that some of the statements that Sandy Alderson's been saying, I understand. First off, was the thing about Lindor and Baez thought would be a good idea to do the thumbs down. Just like what, Todd Frazier when he was with the Yankees, and then the Yankees, for cap reasons and everybody else, had him go to the Mets next year. Same fan that went like this, thumbs down in the crowd. Todd Frazier sees him in me and he goes, "How about we go like this next time?" Baez and Lindor said the fans need to be better, and I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" Baez can't get re-signed now. I mean, they're not gonna forgive those two. I mean, for real. And Lindor, you're here for the next 9, 10 years. Come on, man, you should know better than that. But with that, the fact that Sandy Alderson actually addressed that better than the issues going on now, and then your general manager is at a courthouse apparently, asleep behind the wheel, and miserably fails the driving under the influence. So he's got a DUI. I understand that the Lindor and Bias thing is making you drink, and I understand your job is very difficult, especially to please the people in New York media, because the New York Post and the New York Daily News are having an absolute field day with you. But that's besides the point. And yes, even though every time I go to the deli to pick up a coffee, a sandwich, etc., that we see negative Met news, and this offense is lucky if it could score 2 runs a night on a regular basis. Unfortunately, it's just what it is, and there's nothing you can do to change that. Listen, you didn't do anything horrible. This is just unfortunately what comes with the job. And not all of it is on you, sir. But guess what? When you're getting paid that kind of money, there's no excuse for you not to call a cab, an Uber, or pay somebody a good amount of money just to have you get driven home and go to bed. Come on, man. You're at a very big public state event, and the police, it's not like they had to pull you over. You're right there. Come on, man. Everything in this Met organization has been a mess. And I will say, listen, I've respected Sandy Alderson with his health, who he worked for. I understand his resume under Billy Bean and, the military stuff. I do. And I do have respect in that regard. But every time that he's been in Met uniform, outside that year where they made the World Series and the year before that, the years where Cespedes wasn't a piece of garbage. Those are the 2 years I'm talking about. Outside of that, Sandy Alderson's just been a dud overall. Not spending money when they could, open their pockets a little bit. And this is just me, Jared Porter, the guy that likes to send his junk to women that he's not supposed to. And the fact that you have now Zach Scott with this public stunt, it's a bad image. And if you're Steve Cohen, you're more of a passionate fan than owner at this point. You have been for quite a while. This is year one. Guess what? Sandy and better yet, Steve Cohen. How are you going to go through your third general manager within a year? And this whole thing about the sexual misconduct that was investigated, ever since that it was launched, we never heard any progress or any new leads. The only thing we heard of was that Jared Porter and Mickey Callaway were human pieces of garbage. Look at the way you've handled this. Look around you. Look at the place in shambles. Look at the fans that want everybody from Lindor, Baez, and even Pete Alonso gone. You want Pete Alonso gone when he's your golden boy at this point. You can't give it to Michael Conforto, a guy who has Scott Boras be his agent, and he's going to say, "Oh, yeah, by the way, screw the Mets, go here to do this for my benefit." So I can't rule that yet. Right now, Pete Alonso is your golden boy. pay attention. Take notes from the Met fans. Pete Alonso's your golden boy. You want him here. And he says all the right things. You may not like it all the time, but guess what? There's no way you're going to be able to get the upper office, the fans, and the locker room happy. It's just impossible. But can this be fixed? Can this be turned around? This year, the answer is no. This offseason is where I think it's going to matter. You got to figure out what you got to do with Jacob deGrom and Noah Syndergaard. You got to figure out where Conforto is going. You got to figure out what's going on with your pitching staff. And then you got to look at the free agent market and the trades, and you say, hey, who fits the bill of being here? Talon Walker has to come back. Marcus Stroman has to come back. And after that, a lot of decisions riding for Steve Cohen. And better yet, get your whole organization together. Because right now, everything is a mess. Your upper front office, a mess. Your locker room, a mess. The manager. Have you noticed that your players, your manager, and your front office have never been on the same page all at once since what? A win streak sometime in May? Really? That's pretty bad. And listen, there's a lot of complaints I have as a Yankee fan all the way from top down, and I'm not liking Hal Steinbrenner. Listen, I get it. But when the problems are obvious and no one's able to handle those problems, that's when you got to worry. You see, even though I'm a proud Yankee fan and these pinstripes, they bleed through me, I don't hate the Mets. I've hated the Mets and how they've been run. Because if you look at the Wilpons and if you look at it, you see, it's not Steve Cohen's fault because this is his first year. But if you look at the way that it's being run this year and from the Wilpons, it's just been an utter mess. To me, that's what matters, and that's what upsets me as a sports fan. Get done. That's all I can say. This is AJ Torres from Calling Strikes, and have a good evening.